Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. This is podcast number 5. I'm again joined by Craig Seaton. How are you doing, mate?
Good, man.
Yeah? We haven't done a podcast in over a week and a bit.
Yeah.
Are you getting withdrawal symptoms?
I was shaking, man. I was getting cold and hot and wasting away.
Yeah, I've been good. It's just a couple of sort of life issues. Car's broken down. The exhaust needs changed and needs changing. And I've got a rental car, and basically, like I said before the podcast, it's an absolute beast. Yeah, and now I'm tempted to buy a new car now. So
really?
I think maybe this is how they do it. They give you a rental car and they say, oh, actually the one that you've ordered, we don't have that in stock, we'll give you a bigger one. And that's basically what's happened. So I ordered a Polo, and now I've got a Volvo S60, which is a sports car. It's a sports saloon, and yeah, it's an absolute beast. It's a beautiful car as well. It's orange. It's really dark orange color. Maybe you should come in it for a spin or something.
Seduce me in a ride.
Right. Okay. So, our last couple of podcasts, we've been receiving a lot of good reception. How do you think it's been?
Yeah, great. Hearing people's feedback from it, especially when it's topics that we're so passionate about as well.
Yeah.
Because going from the podcast we did, which was more grounded to our goals, which was still enjoyable, it's not like the heart of what we want to discuss. And I think it's obvious to see that quality in whatever the topic is when it comes to spirituality or life or religion, tradition, philosophy. It's like, I know I'm alive then, and I know you are in the conversation as well. And it's good to be able to distinguish and see that there are other topics to discuss and to go into, but primarily that's where we're going to be, and that's the stuff we want to give out the most. And you carve your niche that way, don't you, knowing what you want to do, and that it's your personality involved with that, and hoping that the message lands with people out there.
It does, because it's the thing with the conscious conversations that we're having. It's the typical conversations that most people should be having. So I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and he had a Hare Krishna.
Oh yeah, we listened.
Did you listen to the whole thing?
Not the whole thing.
Oh god, the last part. I was reading the comments, and there was a little middle part where they were just talking about the general stuff, which was fine. But I read some of the comments, and they were like, the best part is right at the end, the last 20 minutes of the conversation. And they experienced this musician called Raghunath Kapo, his name is. His experience was amazing, and I was just like, wow, that's pretty insane for him to be saying that. So basically, let me try and summarize it in one sort of short sort of thing. And he basically says that when he was touring with his band, so he got rid of his old band, he just felt like it wasn't working for him. Then he became a monk for 6 to 7 years, and he created a band with the monks. So he was touring somewhere in America, and I can't remember exactly where it was, Tennessee maybe. He was at this place, he was at a bar or a club, and they were just finishing up, they were putting everything away, and suddenly this car rolls up, and it's just, he was outside, he was being interviewed by the local press, and this car rolls up, and they're basically in a hood, and these guys basically start beating the crap out of people. And bear in mind, the attendance, the demographic of the attendance was just a bunch of kids, 17, 18-year-olds, and these guys just rolled out of their car and started beating up the kids. And he just watched people getting beaten up, and he didn't know what was going on, because he was also continuing the interview, thinking that, okay, never mind, let me just finish this off. And it was just the weirdest thing in the world. And these guys enter the club and just start randomly beating people up. Unprovoked. There wasn't any sort of malice towards anyone. It was just the fact that they just wanted to beat people up. And he finds himself in a situation where his band members and his team is inside, and they're all packing away their stuff. And he knows that he can't leave because they've got, a couple of £1,000 worth of equipment inside. So he can't just leave. So he goes back in, he tells his team that, we're just going to have to accept the beating. This is what we'll have to do. They just start chanting mantras, the Krishna mantras. And he keeps chanting this mantra whilst the rest of his team gets beaten up. And they run away, he stays there, and then he takes a beating. But he feels like every time he takes a beating, he chants a mantra, and he feels liberated in a way. And he goes, it's the only time he's ever felt like he's fully, what's that word we're looking for? When we meditate and we enter this higher state of meditation, samadhi is called in Sanskrit. He said he almost felt like he achieved that state. Wow. He just felt really liberated. And when the beating stopped, he just felt reality just grounded him. And he was like, oh, no, continue the beating almost. Keep me in this state. And he got he got an awakening. Do you know how people get an awakening when they know they're going to die? He basically thought he was going to die. And it was just an incredible story. And he just felt so grateful for that beating. Because I feel like when you experience such a situation, a life-threatening situation, that's when you experience your most spiritual liberation, if you want. I remember many years ago, I got a beating as well, but it wasn't that bad. I got jumped by a bunch of kids when I was 15. I was walking home, and we used to have school wars back then, and a bunch of kids they were no more than a few years either younger than me or slightly older than me, about 10, 15 lads just jumped me. But when I was taking the beating, I remember thinking to myself, this feels good. So I could resonate with that story. It just felt so good. And I was like, well, to be fair, their punches don't really hurt. So I was like, if I wanted to retaliate, I probably should have retaliated, but I just didn't want to retaliate. And I just took the beating. But I remember thinking after the beating, oh, why did this stop? It actually feels quite good and liberating.
Really?
Which is the strangest feeling in the world. So I completely got this guy's his story. I was like, I resonate with it. Obviously mine wasn't to his extent. He got beaten up with baseball bats afterwards. So the girlfriends of these guys turn up. He thinks that they're here to save him, and they end up passing the baseball bats over to their boyfriends, and they start beating him up. So yeah, he was bloody. I didn't walk away bloody, but yeah, it was a very similar sort of experience. You have a sense of liberation in a way, and I'm not saying that people should go around beating people up and say
come this way to enlightenment.
Yeah, I don't think that's the answer, but there is a deep sense of just, I feel like when you're in a situation where you feel like your life is at threat, you just kind of give up in a way.
I think this is ego death in a form, and this is something that work with psychedelics taught me a lot of, or working with energy and tantra teaches a lot of, is there's forces so powerful that you're just not in a place to be able to maintain that energy. It's like if I kept pouring tea in this cup, the cup holds tea, but if you keep pouring, the tea's going to flood out. And our system with, say, energy, if we build up enough energy and we don't have the vessel to maintain it, then it's going to come out in one form or another. Psychedelics, you don't take enough, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm still in this reality, but I'm over there, but I don't want to go over there, so I'm going to stay here and hold on to this setting until 5 hours have passed.
Yeah.
Because it's not strong, it's not overwhelming enough. You take a strong enough dose, and the ego, it can't comprehend it, it can't balance it because it's overwhelmed, it's beaten down.
It faces adversity at the start, and then you have to overcome that adversity. And if the situation is profound enough and you can't control it, like psychedelic experience, if you have too much and you can't control it, the only thing you can do is just let go.
Yeah. So
you're forced to let go, or you do it voluntarily or consciously.
Yeah.
And I feel like I had another experience when I was young. I was desperately wanting to go swimming. Like, I've never done it before. And we used to have a local swimming place right next to us, no more than like 2 minutes away. And I think it was when I was 5 or 6. Well, actually younger than that. I think I was 4. So finally, my mum took me swimming because all the kids on our street, their parents were doing the same thing. So my mum was hanging around with their mums, my friends' mums, and I was hanging around with my friends. And the first experience I remember having was, I didn't really judge the depth of the water because you just assume that, I can just swim. So I went straight in, jumped in, and then I realized, oh God, I can't reach the bottom with my feet. And I'm like, this is not good. And bear in mind, this entire pool, it was a big pool and it was full of people. So, and I knew that the lifeguard probably wouldn't have seen me because I was right at the edge when I did it. So I jumped in, and for like 2 seconds I panicked, literally for 2 seconds. And I was like, oh God, I can't touch the ground with my feet. And then suddenly blissfulness. Just everything went so quiet. It was actually really therapeutic, and I still remember the experience. Just that little glimpse of just feeling like, I can let go now. And as soon as I started just giving up, luckily my cousin saw me and she swooped in and then pulled me out. But then that created a fear of water, and then later on when I was a teenager I had to overcome it because we were forced to learn to swim. So I overcame it, and again I remember the same experience of feeling like, you know what, this is a lot of bullshit. Like, I'm trying so hard and I can't tread water, so I'm just going to let go. And I think it's I think Alan Watts talks about it. It's in the state of letting go and understanding that you're just not going to be able to do it is when you can do the thing. And it's the same experience with handstands. I was so obsessed with it, thinking, why the fuck is this not happening for me? And then the single moment I decided, like, you know what, screw this shit. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I was balancing.
Yeah.
So it's very how do you say it?
It's a knife's edge.
Yeah, it's very acute.
Yeah.
The difference between you doing something and you not being able to do it, it's literally there in the middle.
It is. And this shows the power of what we think towards it. I think has a massive play. A friend of mine, Ali Reza, he does a lot of handstands, calisthenics. He can do them on his fingers. Like,
right.
He's amazing, incredible. And we were once looking at these videos, and it was people doing them like on the edge of buildings, like
right.
you know, they do
I've
one
seen
handstands
that. Yeah.
or like extreme selfies. And I think selfies have killed more people than marijuana officially now. Like 17 people have died trying to take selfies or something, which says something about the state of our current mind and where we go. But yeah, so these guys were popping these moves out on ledges, and there's a cool guy in Dubai who does it. And
I remember Joe Rogan
amazing.
Reacting to that and thinking, what is going on?
Yeah, that these guys can do that. Now, what separates them from the average person or me who would have fear doing it on that? They've got massive strength in their belief. They know I can do it. So they don't have that element of fear that says, if you fuck up, man, you're off this edge. They go, I can do it. And then they do it. So this is where I think you disperse between what is real about what you imagine. Does that create the reality in that I'm not going to fall, so I'm okay? Or is it a false sense of confidence? Or is it a discipline of skill and chance, if we say?
I think this is what Alex Honnold has, the climber that did the free solo of Yosemite. People say, and I was reading on the comment section, oh, this guy, why does he want to throw his life away? He's actually not throwing his life away. He's doing the opposite. He feels more alive doing that, but he's completely calm. And I think you have to be calm in those situations. You have to understand, like you said, you have to have full confidence knowing that you're not going to let go or you're not going to slip. And he knows that. And he also knows the risk. When you're out there in the elements, if a piece breaks off, then he gets the same reaction as you and I. His adrenaline will kick in straight away. And then he has to kind of settle himself down. And he knows straight away that if his adrenaline is kicking, then there's something wrong he's doing. So he needs to calm himself down, get back to his usual state again. Yeah. So there is some sense of just... It's surpassing... Most people could not do it because a human being has a fear of falling as opposed to a fear of heights. It's the actual fear of just falling. And I think you have to maybe gradually build it up, build a tolerance to it. I think in his brain scans that they had on the documentary Free Solo, a part of his brain just wasn't being triggered. It just wasn't stimulated. And that's the part where the fear kicks in. He needs a large amount of fear for it to kick in. So, you know, being 3,000 feet up and something breaks, then he has to grab on. It's still there. The drive is still there to survive, but it's not to the level where you and I would, you know, if we go up 300 feet, we'd shit our pants. And I just think it comes down to training yourself in that way, just having confidence. You see these guys that do free running and parkour, and some of the guys will climb up to the top of buildings and do the same thing, do their handstands right at the edge, because they have full confidence knowing that they're not going to fall. And if they do fall, it's just one of those things where you're just not going to be able to kind of process what's happened. But that alone, like the thought of living like that is, and this is where we have to examine risk and what we're doing it for, to go more into one side than the other of letting go more, or do we need a bit more discipline and control? Like, so say they're doing that, they love it, they enjoy it, and is that thing worth giving your life for? So we're also looking at, but what they do gives them life, right? But there's the point where some might go, that's a little bit past my limit, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to stay to this shit that I can do and do it really good, and maybe gradual exposure to getting up to those bigger points. But I just love the idea that those people are doing the handstands on the edge of buildings, or, you know, climbing the mountain with nothing. Is that possible only because they believe it? Do you know what I mean? They're so like, it doesn't matter, I'm going to do it. So is it always impossible for them to fail because that's the mindset they have? That's why these achievements are done. Not just because of the exposure, which is part of the training, but they're doing that because they know, I'm going to go and climb and do this thing. I'm going to hold my hand there. Because there is no doubt or element of, and they've trained enough anyway, is that the reason why they're capable of doing it? And the average person isn't, because we have those stimulus that kicks in for fear, or we don't believe in ourselves as much as we would like to, or, you know, the past experience stop us. Whatever it is, imagine that can all be alleviated by going, yeah, I can do it. And then you just do it. Because what you said about the handstand thing, it's so true for me. And I've tried for ages, months practice, doing different disciplines, which always helps. You do the groundwork, always helps.
But then when I was like, if I get up or not, it's fine. And it just started to happen because I took the pressure away. Something that big came up for me in a meditation the other day was my sense of importance on things. Whether I'm doing something right and make it really important and that discipline becomes my life, or I'm not doing something important enough because, forget it, I'll leave it out. And then the string's too loose to even play. And it's balancing that, isn't it? And that's also there in our goals and what we're trying to do. The lucid dreaming is so apparent in that. I'll try and, I'm going to do this in my dream, or I'm going to have a lucid dream tonight, and like hold on so tight. And then it won't occur when I'm like, I've got to get it done. And a teacher told me at a retreat once, he was like, just don't try so hard. Like, hold it like a butterfly. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. And then just thought, okay, I'll see what comes. I had one that night, like just a very minor change of perspective. That on the magnified level is what these dudes are doing to extreme levels, because they're like, for you it seems a big scale, but for me it's not. For me it's doing a handstand on a safe car park while he's doing it up on a building. It could feel the same thing. It's just the mind that goes, you're playing with fire there, which there is an element, obviously he is. If he makes one small movement, the wind blows, whatever. But perhaps his belief ensures that those parameters don't happen around what he's doing. Do you know what I mean?
I think falling isn't an option for these guys.
Yeah,
it's not even a thing that's in the head. Whereas with you and I, we'd say it's a 50% chance of either us falling or making the thing happening.
And that's dependent on skill. For me, it'd be like a 70-30% chance.
Exactly. So, and it comes perfectly into our next topic, which is the topic of God. It's transcending beyond the duality of nature to realize that I can do something, and if the cause of it is death, so be it. I remember watching a video. I think it was the ITV's morning show. What's it called? Today morning or whatever it's called. This morning.
Maybe it's called.
And there was a guy who climbed a shard in London, and he got arrested for it, and he was in prison for 9 months.
Good, bang him up, shouldn't be climbing things. And 9 months for that.
Yeah, and I was thinking in the UK, and especially in Europe, I think it's a civil offence. It's not usually, you don't go to prison for it.
Right.
So this was quite surprising, and that's why they probably had him on, because he was casually climbing it, and then the cops received him casually. There was no attention. He didn't, run around trying to escape. He just casually gave himself up because he knew the risks of doing this. Yeah. But then the judge, for me, and I know a lot of people listening would be like, well, what happens if it was a terrorist attack or this and that and all this kind of stuff? I get it. There are all these measures in place, but understand that this kid, and he said it himself on the actual show, that if he was going to do it again, would he do it again? And he said, yeah, of course, and it was worth the risk, because for him, climbing the shard without anything was his dream. And for us, because of the way society is, we say that we are free, but how can we say we're free if this is happening? We're not really free. We're tied down to wherever
degrees of freedom.
Exactly.
By whatever rules we follow, and the rules we follow, we become. So we need to know what rules we follow and why. And so many of those rules are already imposed from the conditioning of birth upwards that people don't realise they're following rules. It's just like, well, the law says you shouldn't climb a building, so you shan't climb a building. Yeah. And it's like, okay, this guy's this dream. He's willing to pay the price for it. Has he broke a rule? He's broke a socially set law, but that's not like a natural law. It's not a fact of that. It's conditioned from the mind. Say, okay, this is the rule. He's done it because he's happy to pay the price to achieve his dream. Nobody's got hurt. Yeah, it can be a bit. I suppose they're worried more about it being an open gate for people to then do the same thing. How many people actually want to go and do that?
How many people are actually going to want to do that?
And I suppose it is a danger to his life. But if he's a professional and he has, sovereignty over his own consciousness.
Yeah, I think again it goes to those realms of transcending life. So you go beyond life. You go beyond life's dualities. This is where the notion of God comes in. So for a lot of people, Jesus, he transcended life, and even though he was known as,
when you say life, what do you mean?
Like the rules of nature. The rules of nature dictate that for human beings, we're supposed to be grounded animals. We're not supposed to go higher up in elevation. As soon as we do that, all this kind of stuff kicks in, fear kicks in, etc. Because we're supposed to be grounded animals. All mammals are usually grounded, apart from the ones that can fly. And it's just like having a fish out of water. When you have a fish out of water, 90% of the fish will die, whereas you have the mud skipper or the mud kipper that can survive on land, and they've evolved because they've transcended, life beyond life under this water. They've gone beyond that, and I think sometimes maybe this is where human evolution will go towards. It's only going to be a very small percentage of people, 1% out of the 99% of human beings that have ever existed. It's only a very small number of people that transcend life in that way, that go beyond just the limits and saying, you know what, life says that, I can't do this and that because my fear and my instincts, etc., will kick in. I'm going to go beyond that. And I think to a certain degree, this is what the actual spiritual practice is, to go beyond the dualistic nature, to go beyond the desires, to go beyond any primal instinct, and to realize that I'm not bound by the limitations of my body. So the guys that go to India, the guys that go and be monks in Tibet and etc., I think they have the same goal in mind, but their approach is slightly different to these guys that take it to the extreme. And for me, it's a fine line between the two. You're either a monk or a crazy person, what separates the two? So we're going to talk about God in this podcast.
I think on that then, like what you're saying, what is your purpose? What are you doing it for? Like, why are there people why does the fella from the documentary climbing the mountain, why does he want to climb that mountain? Why does the monk want to sit there and develop spiritually? And then you can look at personal meaning, personal purpose, which is self-created, or for me, is looking at the ultimate truth and trying to find the ultimate truth. But again, for what reason? Mainly because there can only be one truth, and if I know that, I know the origin and I know the all, and I understand. But would that then only grant me the freedom to live life as a person on the planet? You know what I mean, and just do what I enjoy anyway? Because once you know that, then what? Do you like the two paths in Buddhism? Do you sit there and keep it to yourself, or do you go out and teach, or do you then go and just live your life, or then do you do the crazy things because you've set a certain freedom in your mind, you've already accomplished something? Do you do a Dr. Manhattan and go off on your own and do your own thing and ponder the mechanics of the universe? Like, so personal meaning, and it's always personal meaning, isn't it? Like, why?
I think that's the beauty of it. You have your own set path to find the truth, the ultimate truth. And for these guys, maybe their path to finding the ultimate truth is to push limits beyond nature, and just get to those extremes, and for us and for most normal people, it's just really pursuing and cultivating our spiritual practice. I think both paths in a way lead to the same destination. It's just whichever one you choose. And there's the other path, which is living life and not realizing that there is this other part of you. So you take life fully seriously. So we talk about this when a policeman or someone who's an authority figure, they live a life where they have to tell people what to do, and they have to have this presence where people feel threatened or a little scared by what they may do. And I think that's when we start to create a dissonance in ourselves, where when we start to take ourselves too seriously is when we become very much bound by our body. So the limitations of our body, the limitations of life itself, we fall into the bracket of animals, because then it's just impulse and what our desires and our sort of expectations are. Whereas if you go beyond that and just put that to the side and say, how can I exist without that coming in? I think you almost achieve a sort of godlike or divine sort of form in a way.
Yeah, well, on that, there's many spiritual texts, like from Gnostic eras, and they say that he's not a full man. Most men are animal man rather than man, what a human being is fully capable of. And it's down to the level of consciousness and what we do with our choices. And I would agree, most of the time spent is gone from impulse, and I want to do that because I feel like I want to do that, and rather than looking at, well, is there growth from it, or does it achieve something? It was a good line I read once was, don't do anything just because you can. Like, what is the point of doing it just because you can? And a lot of people say, why are you doing that? Because I can. It's a thing that you'd say when you were younger, and it's actually, why do it because you can? And what are you gaining from it? Is it done senselessly? Is it done with purpose? And again, it comes back to your ultimate meaning. What do you do things for? With the sense of how I live my life and the path being in it, and why I've chosen now is everything's ideally for spiritual benefit in the way that I see it. And that will take away habits, that will take away blocks, that will give me new disciplines. Sometimes, again, it can tighten me up, but that's because of my old conditioning going in. That no, you've got to do it like this. When the path of spirituality, if you're seeing it through those lenses, everything's a part of it anyway. If you're falling, if you're high, if you're low, it's just self-reflection, consideration. But that's a choice to go to that path, because for me, that is the ultimate way. And I've experienced enough life on and off the path to know that I'm always going to get the most benefit then. Now, that can be a feeling for me, and that's why I sit there. But ultimately, I do believe that it is the evolution of mankind. It is to go to spiritual practices. We're very familiar, and all we've known as the physical drives, the material world, the animal pleasures, that will lead us nowhere other than the same cycle of got it, lost it, got it, had it, got it, I want something new. Where do I get it? Again and again and again, whether that's relationships, whether it's apartments, whether it's food, whether it's whatever it is, it comes and goes. So it's not permanent, and everything's impermanent, including the body, or this personality, for instance. So why not seek something that is always there? And how do we connect to that? We have to understand that, and we have to try and experience that, because then we're reaching beyond what we already know, and it's that outstretch. Once you've stretched the brain, it can never go back. It'll always hold those stretch marks. And once you've sampled it, or you know there's something more out there, you can never turn away from it. Like, you can maybe shut it down for a while, but you'll be pulled back. That's my experience with choosing the spiritual path anyway, because there's nothing grander than it. Like, it is everything. It's in life. I can see it everywhere now, and I'm so grateful for that. And would have chosen this path earlier if I could have, but I didn't know anything about it, and everything for the right reason at the right time. Because saying what we're saying about the animal man, that's necessary, because that is growth itself. Is you have to go through, when we were discussing tantra, is how can somebody be celibate if they've never given up sex, and stuff we say about past lives, for sure. But if we don't know the flavour of something and we don't know in it out, how can somebody truly give it up? Because they've never had it, or they've never felt that power. And as I allude to often, it's experiencing anger, repressing anger so much that I shouldn't have anger, no, don't feel that. And then when I felt it, I was like, oh, I could do something with this. This isn't just the bad thing that I thought it was. This isn't mean I'm going to start shouting at people and being strict and locked down on people that I experienced on the other side of anger. And it was like, so my interpretation changed, but it also, there was freedom involved in it, and going, I know how to not use it, because that's what I experienced, and now I know how to use it. And if it never comes, great, I don't need it. But when it's there because it's a part of who I am, it's like, okay, use it. So it's only when we've experienced things can we then give them up truly, I think. Unless it's just so far away from our life, like, let's say a sense of anger, or having to enlist in the army if there's a war or something like that, I'd be far away from that as much as possible, because I don't feel that experience will benefit anybody or myself. Like, I wouldn't need to kill somebody to know I don't need to kill, you know what I mean? There's obvious things along those lines. But in general, what are we doing things for, and are we happy while we're doing it? Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned about being in the army and killing. Do we need to do it so that we feel like we shouldn't do it? I watched a video the other day. I think it was one of Sadhguru's latest ones, and it's a story that he tells. He tells of a story of a yogi who met so this man was on a spiritual path, and he meets a butcher, and the butcher obviously is killing animals, and yet this man is a guru. So it's like, how does that even work? Like, when you're taking life away, how can you be a guru? And the moral of the story is, whatever duty you have to do in life, you perform that duty, but you do it in the most conscious, the most compassionate way possible. So you can be a hangman, you could be executing people, but do it in the most compassionate way. So if you have to kill, you do it in the most compassionate way, and you don't do it out of suffering. It's said in the Mahabharata that one of the brothers, so there's Arjun, who's big in the Bhagavad Gita, he had 4 other brothers, 5 if you count the one that was a usurper, but there was 4 other brothers. One of them was very strong. He was known as Bhim. He was known for his strength. He was also known for his gluttony. He loved food. He was a big man, and he loved killing. And when it came to liberation, when they died, the reason why he fell from the path of heaven, or whatever you want to call it, the spiritual path, is because when he killed his foes, he saw pleasure in that. And anyone who sees pleasure in causing harm is condemned with a life of suffering, because there is no pleasure in harming. Even if you have to do it out of duty, you should not seek pleasure in that. You should be compassionate and understand that, you know, the quickest way possible is the best option. So we had obviously situations in the past where kings, and even these days, some judges have to execute someone or give the decision to execute someone. But if you do it in a way where you hold anger and hatred towards this person, so let's say you hear about a person who's committed hundreds of rape and he's also killed a bunch of kids, and it makes you feel like, you know what, this person deserves to die. But if you have any sort of satisfaction when he dies, then that makes you no different to that person. You're just as bad as that person. So yeah, it's so amazing when Sadhguru talked about this, and I was like, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. Perform your duty, but perform it in the most compassionate way. So if we translate that to the modern day people, obviously most people are not executioners, and they don't have to kill people. But let's say you work as a lawyer or a barrister and you have to defend someone who's a criminal, and you know he's a criminal. So there are two options. You can either say, you know what, I'm just not going to participate in this and I'm going to go pursue a different path. There's that path. Or you take that responsibility and say, I'll take that on me, but then I'll do it in the most compassionate way possible. If I know this guy's a criminal, I'll defend him to the moon and back, but understand that when I do that, I know that deep down inside that I have no sort of attachment towards whatever's happened to him. So if the judge says, oh no, you're right, you know, I don't think he's done anything bad, and you know that he's got away with it, have no attachment towards that result. You've done your duty, which is defending someone, right? And that's where it ends. You have no attachment towards your feeling towards this person, this angst towards this person, in a way. Let me flip that camera back on. So that perfectly leads on. I think, again, that goes to the realms of transcending life. So you're not bound by the feelings and the emotional experiences that you have. So you go beyond that and you perform your duty in the most purest way. So let me ask you, because we haven't really talked about this, what's your definition of God then?
For me, it's life. For me, God is in everything and in creation. And it can't be contextualized. Like, we can only have not even an idea. Like, it's got to be way beyond our capabilities of understanding. Like the thought of infinity, you know, it's just, we have the words, but could you experience something like that? Or those moments where we felt timeless and, you know, we were aware with what is this feeling? It's something bigger and greater, or, you know, the heights of energetical moments in my life, and you feel so wired and everything's great. Those feelings whatever that is beyond us, and I think God is, but it can be accessed through us. You know, I believe that God can be in the unconscious, which is how, when we develop higher faculties to reach the higher states of ourselves, we can start unlocking these, and by bringing more energy into the body and pairing up that energy with a logical understanding helps. I don't think we need the logical understanding, because the higher things, from, as I've said, the general mind we have can't comprehend them, but through sense of awareness of being is where I think God lies. It has to be in everything because of creation, in my eyes. It's God is creation. It's not a man in, you know, the beard. That's not my sense at all, which probably isn't most people's these days. You know, the old Catholic or Christian God, and it's life. It's just life, you know. And if I want to tap into God or feel God, I'll just put myself, God is in me, God is all around, and I'm alive because He's a higher creative intelligence that has done all this. It's, you know, the evolutionary theory, or that everything's just, the Big Bang happened and then these stars were made and these planets were made and then orbit was, and it all just worked out randomly and perfectly because it's spent billions, trillions of years figuring itself out. It doesn't sit with me, that, like.
But even then, there has to be a conscious awareness for that to happen.
Something has to come from nothing.
You've got to realise that, okay, I've tried this out and that's not created life. I've tried this out, this is not created life. And then eventually, boom, I've tried something out and now it's created life. So some conscious energy, some form, or whatever you want to call it, because the universe in its fullest sense, the Brahman, is what God is. So in Hindu tradition, there are 4 parts of God. There's Brahman, which is the universe, which is the cosmos, which is everything that's happening and nothing at the same time, space itself and time. There is the Atman, which is the tiny piece of God. So if you look at the ocean, you look at one drop of the ocean, it's still got the same properties as the ocean, but it's just a quantity. So that exists in every human being.
Yeah.
Every conscious being on the planet, that thing exists. What separates something that's alive and dead is that thing. So this table here, this is dead. We know that it came from something alive. The trees had conscious awareness. They had an Atman, a very small amount of Atman. But this table doesn't. So we know what's live and dead. If I choke you, I know what's live and dead. That Atman, something leaves, that very small atom or whatever, it's smaller than a microatom, to be fair. That thing leaves your body, and this is what we know as the Atman. The Paramatman is the super soul. So beyond the Atman, there's a level of divinity. There's a level of this creation inside of you. So when we say that certain people become liberated or go beyond, the typical impulses, we call them, spiritual people for a reason, because they've almost transcended that and become godlike, again, like we talked about earlier. So that's what the Paramatman is. It's a small part of it, but it's known as a super soul. It's the infinite existing inside of you. So you have that inside of you. And then it goes into Bhagwan, which is basically the personified version of creation itself. So this is what God, the bearded man, the old bearded man, comes into that category where the universe is personified. The Hindus believe that each part of the universe, whatever it is, whether it's a planet, whether it's a star, can manifest itself in a person or become a personified form. So Krishna obviously was a personification of the entire universe, an avatar, if you want to call it. So an avatar is something that's incarnated and personified itself into a human being. And Hindus believe that Krishna was one of them, Vishnu, whatever, the god, the list is long. And then the final piece is the Brahman. I've said the Brahman, Atman, Super Soul. No, that's pretty much it. So we've said the four. You've got Brahman, you've got the Atman, you've got the Paramatman, and then you've got Bhagwan. And I think when you put those things into those categories, things start to make a bit more sense, and then you start to really understand the story of who Jesus Christ was, who he said God was. It does start to make a bit more sense. And for a lot of us, especially since religion's become such a dogmatic thing, people are swayed and put off by that idea of God being this bearded man. And to be fair, it's not that wrong. It's just the fact that we've viewed someone else bigger than us being another human being. That can't work for us. But then we are known to be created in the image of God. So why can't that be a possibility as well?
Yeah, it could, but if we're created in the image of God, why have we chosen an older man with a beard? Because it's an archetype. Yeah. It's an archetype of somebody who's a grandfather or a father, wise. Because they'll take care of us and they'll look after us, and that's what we should aspire to. And that worked with religion because it brought rule and structure to a time when it's required, because simple as it is now, like there can be anarchy at any point, or people are wild, or if you've got kids who haven't been taught a certain way, so okay, you have to do it. Father Christmas is coming at Christmas. If you behave, okay, I'll be good. You know what I mean? And it's like that seemed to continue on up until the point when people started to have more point to reflect on themselves, or decide, hang on a minute, I don't want to live this way, I don't want to believe in that, or have so many questions that can't be answered by somebody because they don't know, they've just been piling down what they want for control. Religion definitely had that. And it's like we're coming the other way into be like, no, there's no God. People are more on the side of what's the term? It's not agnostic. What's it called? Atheist. More atheism. While you've got the spiritual view, which I think is becoming more common, probably more conversational than what people actually believe, because somebody do think about God, and I honestly don't think many people spent the time because of the backlash of religion. They were like, nah, there's no God, or oh yeah, it's the universe, but without, what do you mean by that? What have you felt? Like, where is that coming from? Is it just someone else's text because we're now gelling to Eastern philosophy because that fits us in the time, in the culture now, better than Christianity did? Like, it doesn't mean it's any right or wrong for the layman who's not looked into it, and we're just discussing it. But great, have the conversation, but let's not fall into another, oh yeah, this yoga says this or this religion says that, and that's what I'm about, so I'm going to go into it. Like, why does it gel with you? Why do you want that? Why does that answer work? And yeah, I spent a lot of time with that personally because I don't want to fall into another case of somebody else's words. And how can you experience God or the highest aspects of life if you're not doing it yourself? Because my beliefs are that everybody is unique and we have that spark of divinity within us, you know, and our consciousness can help that spark grow more. And that's directed by feeling, like what does your heart speak to, and what do you feel that purpose is that we discussed before, because your purpose is your own meaning. But there's a reason you're attracted to, there's a reason why I like to talk, I like to do breath work, I like to do meditation, there's a reason why I'm going to build my life around that, not get dissuaded, for example, and go, I'll just do a 9-to-5 job, which is completely fine, again, because that is somebody else's path. But when you know the feeling, I will just follow that, because that will direct me. You can say that's God, you can say it's your higher calling, you can say it's your alignment. I don't know. I just know those three things. I'm more alive when I'm following something like that.
Yeah.
And that itself takes me to unfold to what? Higher capabilities, you know, a higher quality of life. And who knows where it goes? It's just, what do you want to pick? What do you want to choose? And I think to go back to understanding the aspect of God is nobody can tell you what it is. Oh, this enlightened person said it feels like this guru says this priest says that. Okay, so I've got a sort of a target, but you still have to feel it. You still have to know it yourself. And if you're following in those points of authority, we're just going back to what we were talking about, the rules earlier is, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. Know the rules for what you think you're going to head towards, but be capable of going in or out of them if needs be, because then you're not held down. And if you're trying to discover something like God,
you have to go beyond those rules.
Yeah, like everybody's, because what if the only rule coming back is that you follow rules? You know what I mean? Like, how can you be of a divine source if you're being restricted by something?
Yes.
And that something is generally our own mind, whether it's fear, so I'm going to follow everybody's rules anyway, because no, they've all said do that, so I'll do that. And then I can come down on anybody who's not doing that because you're not following the rules, so you won't get to this point. Or you can be like, if the rules are in line with me and it's right, I'll go ahead and do it. If they're not, I'll go out and do it. Like, just self-development.
I think it comes back to being accepting of everyone. I think the late great Ram Dass, he had a quote where he says, when you're out there and you look at a tree and you look at the different shapes of the tree and you find one tree that's really tall and long, and then you find another one that's bent over and curved. You look at that bent over and curved tree and you know that it hasn't had enough light, but you don't have an attachment to it and think, oh, why doesn't it have enough light? You just accept it for what it is. Now, if you apply that same principle to human beings, some people just haven't had that much experience and exposure or light again to life to become beyond their impulses. So, but then we have this feeling of sort of pity or, you know, sadness that this person, or expectation this person's not like that. And this is where we fall into a trap. So we should be viewing the world, and again, viewing people, human beings, almost like trees. Accept them for what they are. Yes, this tree's great. He's gone places, he's done so much for this world, but then there are people that are not on that path, and they probably will never be on that path in this lifetime. And it's okay to look at them and say, that's fine, you are where you are, you know. It's, be completely happy with where they are in their path. The problem comes when you try and expect everyone to come to your level. So let's say you've studied the scriptures and you've meditated and you've hit a certain sort of understanding of what's going on, a tiny little understanding of what's going on. It's when you start pushing that idea and say, this is the correct idea, you need to come and follow me. That's the birth of modern day religion. That's the birth of religion in the past as well, where you start saying, the only true path forward now is for you to come onto my path. If you don't follow this path, you're going to hell. And that's where the Western religions or the Abrahamic religions have faltered. And to a certain degree, this is where the East is falling down that trap. I was reading something last night, it was quite interesting. So Hinduism is known to have gods for any person in society, whether you're a poor person, whether you're gay, whether you're transgender. The transgender one is very interesting. In Hindu culture, before the British Raj came in and put their rules around, a transgender person in India would be considered divine, because you no longer have attraction towards either sex, or you don't associate yourself with either sex. You're not a man or a woman, you're that middle person. So the Hindus believe that, or Eastern philosophy believes that there's a third gender, and that third gender is transcending both the other genders, because you no longer have those impulses. So you're not attracted to women, you know, or a guy that's homosexual is not attracted to another guy, or a woman is not attracted to another woman. So you've gone beyond that. So these people are really important. These people are there to tell us, oh, you guys are playing a game. You know, you can exit that game if you want to. You don't have to be stuck in that game. But it's okay. If you want to be playing that game, that's fine. You do that. So they were treated as almost like very auspicious, very spiritual people. And then obviously because of the influence of the Abrahamic religions through the British Empire, that's when people started shunning upon transgender people in India. Like they're saying, you know, you're really bad, like, because you can't conform to either one path or the other path. You have this path. We're gonna allocate this separate path for you, and it's a path of just being at the bottom end of the society. This is when, again, when religion falters, because now you're saying that that person, just because he's different, or just because they, or whatever they want to be called, is different, you put them in a separate category and say, we don't want those people, we only want these types of people. This is why Hitler was obsessed with having this Aryan race, blonde, blue eyes. Either a guy has to be between 5'11", 6'1", and in that category, because it's like, okay, this is what divinity is, this is what perfection is, this is my perspective on what divinity is, and if you're not following that path, the rest of you are scum. Let me eradicate you all. So it's a very dangerous topic at the same time. When you think you understand God, you don't understand God.
Yeah.
Right? There's a saying, when you think you understand God, you don't understand God. It's when you don't understand God is when you truly understand God, because you know that there is no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever you perceive it to be. So, and plus in a society, we're not allowed to even pursue that path as well of, you know, this is what I feel God is, this is what I want to do. But then you'll be like, well, I think this is the right interpretation. And it comes back to like one-upmanship. You know, how do I beat you and put you down? So yeah, it's a very interesting topic, but it is something that people need to talk about, but not talk about in a heated, debated way. Just have it as a conscious conversation and accept what other people believe. Don't try and push your idea on them. Tell them what you feel. Tell them what you've learned. So all this stuff about the Brahman and the Paramatman, it's just scripture. It's just words on a piece of paper or conversations that people have had. It doesn't mean anything to me until I've experienced it. I haven't experienced it to that level, but I have experienced something from doing meditation and breathwork and stuff. So obviously I'm experiencing something, but I don't want to push my idea on anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, all you can do is tell them of your experience, try and put it in words, because most of the time you can't even put it into words. So how do you expect to explain it to someone? How do you expect someone to come on board with your idea if you don't have any words or any way to describe what you're experiencing? So again, this is why you have to let people do their own thing. You know, accept, even if it's a person who's atheist, accept that they're atheist. Buddhism is quite atheistic, and I think Jainism is exactly the same. They don't believe in God. They just believe in the universe being it's always existed. It's a large organism, if you want to look at it as this, and it just exists. It'll be there before, it's been there before us, and it'll be there after us. So yeah, I think that's more of a healthy way of looking at it. Maybe this is where modern day religion is going towards, like you said.
Yeah, I think this is what the spiritual upsurge is answers that we can now get on board with a little bit more, because science and religion are growing at different rates and going to different areas. People will choose one camp over the other. Like, it's hard now to find, I think in general, scientists that will accept spirituality. And you've got people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton,
Jordan Peterson as well.
Jordan Peterson, yeah. You know, and they're heights of their field. And they embrace spirituality with hard science, with what they teach, and also looking to expand the science about what they're into too. And that helps, I think, a unifying view of the universe come into acceptance a lot more, because we can explain the experience with the knowledge, with, here's how you release dimethyltryptamine, you synchronize it in your lungs, you breathe it up, comes up through your spinal fluid, it goes into your pineal gland, smashes all the crystals because of pressure, and then you release the hallucinogenic effect. And that again could have been, wow, I've just had this experience, like not knowing anything about it, and you're like, yes, now I have this ability or this power to see God or to see images. And it's like, well, anybody can. You just, nobody's so special, that we're not all special at the same level.
Alan Watts talks about this. He goes, if you were Jesus Christ, and you said, well, if you were to that level, and you say in a Western culture, I'm God or I'm Jesus Christ, people are like, piss off. You know? But if you say it in Asia and say, oh, this is who I am, people will say, well done, you've discovered who you really are deep down inside. And I'll kind of explore that and see where it takes you. I think with the scientist outlook, there are two types of scientists, and I think most of the scientists fall into this one category, and they don't know that they're in this category, some of them. It's a reductionist scientist. Someone who will just say, oh, nope, all of this is wrong because you can't provide the evidence, or I don't take what your experience as evidence. It's not good enough for me. And it's great, you're doing that, but then at the same time, you're putting yourself into this small bracket of just not accepting anything. So we know this from, again, going back to animals, like I normally do. There are senses that we don't have. Dogs can hear amazingly well. They can smell amazingly well. Snakes see the world. They don't have any ears at all. So they see the world through thermal regulation and what the temperature of your body is. So for us to be saying that this is how life is based on our five senses, bear in mind our five senses are pretty much minimal. They're level. We're probably the only species on the planet where our senses are pretty much level. Like all of them, not one is beyond the other unless obviously you're born in a certain predisposition. Everyone's pretty much got the same level of sight, etc., on hearing, etc. But then you look at these other animals, and we know that eagles can see like 2 miles away. Stuff like that. We know it exists. So how can we as scientists say that, oh, this is all that exists? And when we know that these other creatures are seeing stuff differently. Dolphins and bats communicate and see the world through echolocation. So we know these things exist, and yet we say, oh, well, if I can't feel it, if I can't see it, if I can't taste it, etc., it can't be true. Or if I can't put logic behind it, it can't be true. So, and I think logic comes down to human limitations, what we can comprehend. We can't comprehend infinity. It's way too beyond our scope. So we want to kind of constrain it. And the same as the Big Bang. Eastern philosophy says there has to be a contraction for there to be an explosion. So before the Big Bang, there was a massive contraction. So again, we can't comprehend that. We haven't found the evidence for that. So then we believe that doesn't exist. So again, it comes back to being someone who reduces everything until you can experience it. What happens if in your entire lifetime you never experience it?
This is where I think nature will come in, and that's what death does.
Right.
Like if we're going to die, there's two ways to do something. It's to evolve with it, or there's to allow nature to do it itself, because organically we are always evolving, we're always moving, and it just may be very slow if we don't consciously choose to do that, which is like soul development or personal development, whatever you want to call it. If we just doing the same thing daily in and out, we'll be unhappy, we'll be depressed, or we'll numb ourselves. Because there's the urge to grow, and to grow doesn't mean, right, I've got to keep developing in the sense of I need to learn this or I need to do that. It's like, no, you can do that. Grow your consciousness, grow how long you're aware for. Maybe I was aware for 10 seconds. I'm going to do that 5 times a day. Maybe next week you do it 10 times a day for 7 seconds. Whatever, it's growth of consciousness, growth of awareness seems to be the understanding of how the universe will come to know itself, going through those different animal states of what snakes can see, or what eagles, and then into a human who's so incredibly adaptable and has all these, the brain is the most complex, amazing thing that we have, that's better than any computer, and we haven't figured that out, and it's part of what we are, and all the emotions and anything that we can do, the fact that we create the technology that we have, we can go to other planets, we can go to other planets, these things that we'd just be in awe of, yet you can just sit and be yourself and be in awe of everything because you're alive. Just to be alive is breathing, astounding. And if we can tap to that level, every day's great, every day's, don't get me wrong, we still have the bad times and the hiccups and whatnot, but that's because we've become unconscious and we forgot, holy shit, I can breathe and I can get out of bed and I can taste this, and we get stuck in then becoming mundane and then chasing more pleasures because we're not actually appreciative of the fact that you're alive. We need Maslow's hierarchy of needs to get us into a place where I've got my security, I've got my food, then you can climb those spiritual ladders a hell of a lot easier because you're not worrying about, I've got to get my food, I can't sit and ponder the majesty of life when my belly's hungry, it's that kind of outlook. But if we can tap into that, which it's just a wonderful place to be. Like you can realize God then in the essence of everything, or divinity in everything, because it's unbelievable that it exists. That things like love exist, or great emotions, or me using sounds to try and get something across that I'm passionate or moved by. Like, wow, anything is possible. And this is where we remove the rules again of this is right, that's wrong, you should be this person, you should be that person. All that nonsense, when you drop it all, drop the words, drop the descriptions, and you just alive. How can you have a dislike that thing, but there's no attachment? How can you have massive hate for stuff when it's part of what you are, which is alive, it's part of in your field of consciousness? That's enough for me, and I love that. And so much of life comes through that understanding for me, and that is just my understanding. Again, it's not factual for anyone else, it doesn't have to be, but that's where I am, and that keeps me moving forward and keeps me looking to drop more personality, because dropping the personality is where we access, I think, the unconscious and the divinity inside us, because no longer does it have these brick walls in front that say, no, life has to be like this, or you can't talk to me like this, or I really want to go and do that, or I won't be happy. It's like, get rid of those walls, and behind it is what we all are. Consciousness is life, experiencing life.
Yeah. Okay, so just went for a quick toilet break. So what you said is, there's a Sanskrit word for it, it's called Leela. Yeah, so it's basically translated as pastimes. So the universe experiencing itself and realizing that, oh, I am the universe. So whatever experience you have in life is usually through adversity or extreme levels of blissfulness, where you experience, oh, I am alive, when you appreciate where you are. So the universe experiencing itself, to understand that the ultimate game the universe plays is that it's hide and seek almost. So when you see a baby and you play peekaboo, as soon as you view yourself, the child is really happy, and as soon as you cover yourself up, the child's face just becomes very mute. And that's the universe playing hide and seek, to realize that actually, oh, I'm not this, I'm beyond this, and being happy about that. So you can take joy in adversity as well. And this probably sounds insane for most of our viewers, but in situations where things are not falling into place, I think it's those situations, understand, that's when the most amount of growth will happen. It'll never happen in any situation where you're having the most fun or whatever, when you're having the most amount of pleasure. It usually happens through adversity. So to appreciate what's happening in those moments and realize that all this will do will make me a better person. This had to happen. So last week, on Thursday or Friday it was actually, I broke down, I was stuck on the M60, couldn't do anything about it. I wanted to go climbing in this new place in Warrington, couldn't go, let my friend down, was sat there, and I just thought, what can I do in this moment in time? And I just watched that podcast with Joe Rogan and Raghunath, and I was just like, yeah, it's just it's something I can't control, and now I've just got to accept the situation. And yeah, I think when you have that sort of, and obviously that's not a massive adverse thing compared to death and etc., what most people are experiencing, but adversity is still adversity. You still feel down, and you feel down when other things will happen as well, things that are greater. But then it's, again, your perception on what that will do. So immediately now I stop myself and say, oh, it's adversity, but I'm addressing it as adversity, and I'm just going to accept it for what it is. And when you accept it, then you don't have all this stuff going in your head. You're no longer thinking about, if I had done this, or maybe if I hadn't set off and I didn't go and hit that pothole, maybe my exhaust would be okay. You don't think about all those things. And then you don't think about the future. God, I'm going to have to get a rental car, or God, it's going to cost me a bomb to repair this car. You just live in the moment and be present and accept whatever comes. So it's being that. And I think there's a certain level of being godlike in that situation, to realize that I'm being conscious about everything I do. So instantly, as soon as I feel like there's a sense of compulsion kicking in, be conscious. And that is the first step to transcending nature's way of holding us down. And human beings always want to be free. It's our natural instinct to be liberated and to not be bound or shackled. But then instead of being shackled by iron, we shackle ourselves with gold. We put all this pressure on us. I want this car, I want this and that, and then you shackle yourself with pleasure and gold, and which means you're still shackled, you're still tied down. So let go of those shackles, and I think that's what it is to be liberated, and that's what it is to be living in this pastime, to have your own story, like we talked about in the previous podcast. His story, you have your own story, and dictate how you want to take that story. Allow those situations to happen, but then dictate how you respond in those situations. So, pastimes leader.
Yeah, I like it. And it's like the golden shackles. It's just the matrix, you know. What rules and laws do we accept that we're most comfortable to abide by? And then we'll go, no, it's that way. It has to be that way. So keep me here. You know what I mean? There's a really good analogy of that sense of view in that we're the jailer and we're the prisoner. Like the best prisoner you'll have is one who is the jailer. You know, he's the one keeping himself there. It's like you've got the key, but you lock yourself in the cell, and you're like, I'm just gonna stay here. You know, you keep yourself in there, and it's such an amazing topic to get into, knowing that we're captivating ourselves, because the majority of people, almost all of us, don't want to know that we're the ones that are doing that. It's like, yeah, but the government say this, or I have to pay my bills, and da-da-da. It's like, right, how much of that can you do in freedom? And freedom is, I believe what you're saying, it's the sense of mind. It's like, here's a version, here's I've got to pay the bills, here, whatever. Yeah, do it, but only do as much as you need to. For instance, like bills, just because it's such a common one, people will complain about where, you know, I have so much to pay for and I can't do the things I want to do creatively, or what my heart says, or what my true passion is, because this job pays so well and it affords the things I've got. Well, how about dropping the things that cost so much, or downsizing where you live, which people would never even consider unless it's like a necessity. I've got a wedding or a baby to pay for, so I'm going to have to sell my house and da-da-da. Then they'll downsize when it's forced upon them. And this is what we're saying about nature. You can choose to work with it. And go, right, well, if I want to go to those pursuits that speak to me a little bit more, maybe I'll have to swap something material for it, or change the job. But I'll be happier in the long run because we've let go of the attachment to what that thing was, which is the golden handcuffs of, no, I have to have this standard of living, I have to have this job, all these things that they're just conditioned to a certain sense of being, and we all have it. And then when we start to accept it and we can start to see it more, it's, I think this way, then this occurs, or I don't put enough effort in there because of these limiting beliefs I've got. They're always the handcuffs, they're always the prisons. One, see that we've been told by others to think that way, and then two, see why we're holding on to these kind of thoughts that we have, and why we don't look the other way. And yeah, that's where freedom is. If we want it, it's there for everybody. Liberation is there for us all, and it just goes to deeper and deeper levels, going from beyond society and into of how we think, and looking at the things that we want, like our desires. Are they actually keeping us in golden chains? Because we desire them. But where's the desire going to get us? If we can use it correctly, great. If it takes over us, then no. Then we need to learn to go, maybe it's not about the desires. It's not about the aversion. All of it is life. How do you set on that journey? How do you sail through it? Understanding that it's all life, and I'll be as present as I can and do the best I can in that moment. Not scold myself and not overly praise myself. Yeah. Get on with life.
Definitely. I think with the adversity thing, it's the one thing, what you said right at the start about taking psychedelics. If you take too low of a dose, you're in one world and you're in the next world as well, and you're fighting almost between the two sides. But if you go fully deep into it, I think adversity does the same thing. It's that one drug that, you could be the most happiest person in the world, and it just takes one instance, some loved one passes away in an unfortunate way, and that brings your world down. So our adversity is almost like, in the previous podcast we talked about the enemy. Having an enemy is not necessarily a bad thing, because it teaches you, it makes you more aware of what you are saying, to make sure that, do you actually believe what you're saying, and it makes you question what you're thinking as well. So adversity does the same thing. It provides a sort of a barrier for you to not get so caught up in your own shit. And then you realize, okay, I feel like I'm this kind of person now because I've achieved this sort of success. But as soon as adversity hits, adversity will hit anyone, whether you're a king or a peasant. It will hit anyone, and they'll make you feel like, okay, right, I'm not as this up as I thought it was. So yeah, I think we need it, but it's our relationship with it. It's understanding that how can we use that for a positive sort of understanding or growth. So yeah. Right, what time are we on? 1 o'clock?
Yeah, 1 o'clock, man. We'll wrap it up there.
We'll wrap it up there, yeah.
We could keep going that one. Just what you're saying there reminds me of that quote, be noble because you are made of stars, and be humble because you are made from the earth. Yes. And that's the adversity and the triumphs, is with both those things. bringing it away from duality into oneness, is those sides are always there, and it's only through the alignment of seeing that both sides are always there, and we're neither right nor wrong. We're just cycling to get to that balance point and synchronizing and holding it on that vibration. Like that's a goal for me, and I love working towards that because it's harmony. You're in harmony with life, not just the small individual things and sex. It's like, this is life here, and it's a work in progress. But when you get that glimpse, smooth.
Yeah, you're not willing to let go. Once you get that glimpse, and I think I mentioned the quote before, like yogis are not against simple pleasures. They're not against pleasures. They're against simple pleasures. To understand that, okay, once you've experienced those simple pleasures, you can go beyond that. What's next for you, you know? So it's just letting those simple pleasures go. And yeah, I'm not saying don't have sex, don't enjoy yourself in life, but try and understand there's deeper pleasures than just that. There's another realm that exists, but it's just that we're not willing to strive for it in a way. So,
well, I think that's where the spiritual path pulls in, because there's so many things I've discovered that I would not have if I hadn't looked in the old forgotten cupboards of the spiritual store, like opening it up and blowing cobwebs off things. Wow, I've never heard about this in my life. Never heard about lucid dreaming. Only heard about the pop culture versions of Tantra. Never knew about energy and healing and all this stuff that wouldn't have come into me if I wasn't pulled through spirituality. So whatever those callings are, those little quiet voices that are whispering to us, we have to each follow them and follow what our heart says, because that will take you somewhere. And that may be down a massive aversion at first.
Yeah.
Like the drinking was the thing for me, drinking, going out all the time. But if it wasn't for all of that, I might not have gone to that meditation and gone, that's the place I want to be, because I've experienced that, and yeah, it was fun, but that it wasn't fulfilling on deeper levels, because there are those depths of levels that, as you're saying, that we live from. So it's a great point, man. Right,
we're going to wrap it up. That's a beautiful conversation. I think this is going to be our longest one. Looking at the time, it's about 1 minute and 7 seconds, so it'll probably be about a minute because of all the breaks. Minute and 7 seconds, an hour and 7 seconds, an hour and 7 minutes. Yeah, perfect. It's been a pleasure, Craig.
Always is.
I'll catch you in the next one.
You will do.
Right, guys. So, just a quick update on the platforms that we're uploading this podcast on. So, YouTube is fully guns blazing. It's not a problem. But we've just had an issue with Spotify. I think with Spotify, you have to find a host that's willing to host your podcast. And in order to find a host, you have to convince them that your podcast is doing well. So, we have to get to a certain stage before we can actually start putting it on Spotify. Just correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Just if you guys know how to do it, just let me know. But yeah, so this will be on YouTube as usual every Monday or Tuesday, and it will also be on SoundCloud. So yeah, if you guys are walking somewhere and you don't want to view us, then you can always listen to us instead. Right, I'll catch you in the next one, Craig. See you guys later.
Thanks for listening.
Done.